Let's get started with the first conversation today. We're speaking about retirement and the fact that life doesn't stop when you stop working. Joining me to talk about this in a lot more detail is Amit Kukreja, who is the founder of Amit Kukreja Advisory. Thank you so much, Amit, as always, for taking the time. You know, a lot of people have read that book, Ikigai, to find the purpose in their lives, and I think I know a few retired people who've found renewed vigor after having read that. In the first points that you've mentioned is that that needs to be a focus. It needs to be something that you focus on when you do retire, right, Amit? But we're speaking about the tenets broadly of retirement. How does one start planning for it?
Sure. So, in order for you to pursue your purpose with passion, you need to have financial resources. And if you have made your money work in a manner so that it starts working for you, then you can start working for your purpose with passion. That's how I summarize it to people who I work with. So you have to stay on top of how money has been set up or how the money equation has been configured to, to give you some basic strengths of financial portfolio so that you can pursue what you want to pursue. I can go deeper, Alex, point by point, but you let me know when do I get started with that one.
Absolutely, we'll take it in a systematic manner. So assume that somebody has reached this point of retirement. They've amassed quite a bit of money over the course of their work life or business life, and they're wondering what to do with this. I think a lot of people face this absolute confusion because they're faced with a situation where they sometimes have a lot of money, they don't know what to do with it and how to plan for the intervening years. Where do they start?
Sure. So your basic conversation starts with consulting someone who can help you do an objective analysis of what you have based on the years of life remaining. Assuming a life expectancy of 85 years or 90 years, you can sit with an expert and see what is it that you would need to sustain your current standard of living for the remaining years of life. If you are 60, if you are 50, subtract that number from 90, and based on the years left, you can sit with an expert and do some basic analysis of what is it that you need in order for you to cover the cost of living on a monthly and annual basis for the remaining years of life. Once you have done that assessment, you know whether you are deficient or you are having surplus money. If you end up having deficient in that calculation, then obviously you have to work little more to make sure that money is earned, or you cut down your cost of living. But if you identify yourself that you are lucky enough to have this surplus, then of course you can use a portion of money to create some other business or something, some other occupation or something that keeps you busy and that gives you a good return on your investment of time and energy in life. And you can also use that money and take some risky exposure in your portfolio to see if that helps you multiply your money. Depending upon what the overall situation is, you can accordingly decide how and what and where to park your money so that it can fund your retirement cost of living in a very timely manner.
Okay, let's talk about the 5 pillars that you've identified that you say are important financial planning wise in order to establish strength in the money life for a senior citizen. The first one that you've selected is safety of capital. What does one need to bear in mind when it comes to this?
Well, very simple. Safety of capital means you have to ensure that the capital protection is there in your financial portfolio. So there is very less risk in that capital. There is very less risk in terms of exposure to the volatility of the market. So you first identify the money, which is essentially required to give you the bread and butter income for your regular sustenance. And once that money or once that amount has been identified, you must deploy that money in capital, which is protected. So some schemes, it could be a government-backed scheme like Public Provident Fund that you can start investing now. But if you're already retired, you can put your money in senior citizen savings scheme. If you're 60 plus, if you're under 60, you can put your money in RBI floating rate savings bonds. You can buy LIC Bandhan Yojana. If you are 60 plus, if you're under 60, you can use that money in RBI floating rate savings bond. You can put your money in fixed deposits. You can put your money in low risk debt funds, liquid funds, low duration funds, ultra short funds. So that's the amount of money that you have identified after sitting with an expert, that this money cannot be exposed to risky assets. So that's the safety of capital part, which is the first principle of your retirement corpus.
Just to follow up on this, because I've met a lot of people who are wary of eating into their corpus. So what they do is that they calculate the amount that they would need on a monthly basis, and they invest the entire lump sum amount into a fixed income instrument that would give them a certain rate of interest every month. And that's how they take care of their individual expenses. Is that the right way to do it, or would you say that it's important to have a corpus which you pull from on a regular basis as and when you need the money?
Yeah. So you have to go a level deeper into identifying what is that corpus, keeping in mind 2 or 3 things more. One, obviously, the interest, the rate of interest at which you are earning the interest on that corpus. That's number one. Second, how much is it that you're getting post-tax? So you will have to pay income tax on the interest that you have earned. If it's a fixed income or a fixed interest product, you will end up paying the income tax slab at a tax rate. So you have to look at the post-tax income. And thirdly, you have to look at what is the corpus that you also need to beat inflation. So if your cost of living is 15 lakh rupees per year now, it could become at 6% or 5% inflation, it could become 16 or 17 lakhs next year. So if you have identified an interest income of 15 lakhs from a fixed income portfolio, you would need 16 lakhs and 17 lakhs next year. And the interest rate may not be the same that you're getting today. So based on prevailing interest rates, based on post-tax returns, based on the average return on the investment, you will have to do a calculated portfolio allocation to equity, to a little bit of a higher risk fixed income products and low risk fixed income products. You have to beat inflation in order to continue your standard of living.
Yeah. I think that is one of the tenets, and we'll get back to that in just a bit. But let's focus on the second tenet that you've identified, or the pillar that you've identified, which is medical coverage. And I think a lot of people have a lot of confusion with regard to this, because they sometimes have employer-based coverage, and as they get older, Amit, it becomes costlier for them to get that insurance. So how do they plan this?
So medical cover, after having gone through the pandemic, we have realized is one of the most important covers that we should have. And even if you have some medical insurance through your employer, you must have your own standalone insurance framework as well. Although you should exercise your medical insurance through your employer first, because that has a faster rate of processing, and because it's a corporate plan, you get a lot of other advantages also. But you must always maintain your standalone framework of medical insurance for yourself and your family. That is because tomorrow, if you change your job, the new employer may not give you the same cover. Or tomorrow, if you choose to lose or choose to stop working for the company that you're working for right now, and you start something on your own, at that point, if you start a fresh insurance for yourself, it might become very expensive. And if you're already 50, 55 plus with some pre-existing medical conditions, very likely you may not get an insurance from a new insurance service provider. So you're always better off maintaining a individual independent insurance framework along with the company insurance that you're receiving from your employer. Even if it is expensive, let it be, maintain your medical insurance all throughout, even if you're 60 plus or 70 plus, because it's one of the most important covers that we have realized given the whole COVID situation in last year and a half.
Absolutely, and it can eat away quite a bit of the nest egg that you have saved up in the case of an unfortunate eventuality. Let's talk about the third point, which you alluded to briefly when you talked about the fact that some people have this large amount of corpus that they put in interest yielding assets. But necessarily, I would think that in order to have that amount of money coming to you every month, that corpus that you invest in the fixed income product would necessarily have to be very large, right? That leaves you with less amount that you can invest. And the other factor, of course, is that the older you get, often your risk-taking ability and your willingness to take risk also dwindle a little bit. How important is this aspect, investments?
Oh, it's very important. So if you look at the prevailing interest rate, right? If you are investing in a fixed deposit, you're getting about 5%. So if you invest a crore in a fixed deposit, you'll be getting 5 lakh rupees a year. If you're investing in RBI savings, floating rate savings bonds, you're getting about 7%, 7.15%. So you get 7 lakhs on a crore. And if you're investing that money into debt funds, you're getting more tax efficient, but you're getting on an average 5.5 to 6.25%, depending upon the duration of the underlying fixed income assets. It is one of the important aspects. The rate of return for senior citizens in a senior citizen savings scheme is about, I would say, 7.4 or 7.6%, right? But you have a cap of 15 lakh. So the high interest rate products that you have in the market have a cap on the investment amount. The lower interest rate products that you have in the market, which are fixed deposits and recurring deposits, have a very poor return. So you need to have, and the poor return becomes even worse when you do the tax implications. So you need to have equity allocation here. This equity allocation is the allocation which will help you beat inflation, because your cost of living is going to go high with time. So you need some inflation beating assets. And you, of course, also need a better return portfolio. So you have to identify what is it in terms of asset allocation that you would keep exposed to equity markets, in what manner, diversified through mutual funds or direct investing through stocks or direct investing through PMS, then fixed income products. Look at the tax efficiency of the entire portfolio. Look at the overall return of the entire portfolio, and then do your final decision on what is the right breakup of assets in your portfolio. A lot of senior citizens like to maintain real estate because it's tangible, but the yields are very, very bad. Yields in a real estate residential is about 1.5 to 2%. Commercial is about 5 and 6%, and that's not tax friendly either. So you need a holistic assessment of overall investments portfolio, and then accordingly you rejig what goes into what kind of product and how much, and then your overall weighted return must be calculated.
Absolutely. The requirement to beat inflation is absolutely essential, right? Um, which brings me to the next point. You were speaking about real estate and you were talking about rental yields. That was the instrument of choice of quite a few people that are either nearing retirement or have crossed that benchmark right now. And unfortunately, they're not the most liquid. It's not easy to, have a deal where you quickly sell a property and get the money that you need in an event that you absolutely need that money. So how important is liquidity?
Liquidity is one of the most important aspects of retirement plan. You need to be in a situation where tomorrow, if you need the money is available by the click of a button. So if you are in mutual funds, you can easily redeem your options and pull out the money. But if you are in lock-in products like senior citizen savings or a 5-year fixed deposit or a 4-year fixed deposit, obviously you have to do the paperwork, you have to pay the penalty a bit, but there is a bit of an inconvenience. So sometimes people lock in their money into high rental commercial properties, and when they need the money, they will not be able to liquidate because the market may be down at that point of time. Liquidity can also be a very important factor tomorrow if, as a senior citizen, somebody is deciding to support the grown-up child in their business or a daughter in some other life-changing situation, and the money is required and you're kind of stuck. So liquidity is one of the essential aspects of your portfolio. Try to have as less lock-in products in your portfolio as possible. Try avoiding real estate, especially when you see you might be needing a chunk of money, not entire corpus, but a portion of it. And you know that in financial assets, you can easily pull out a portion of that chunk by redeeming that portion. So you have all those options in financial assets. But if you are putting this in real estate assets, then it's going to be a very, very challenging. Or a locked-in bonds, then you will have to go through the inconvenience of paperwork and submitting necessary documents. So very important aspect, liquidity. It should be one of the top 2 parameters.
Absolutely. We're running a little short of time, Amit, so let's run through the last couple of tenets that you've identified. Yield, why is that important?
Obviously, I need to beat inflation. Very simple. I need to make sure the cost of living which I have at the moment is well covered by my portfolio. We all know if a crore is invested at 5%, we are going to make 5 lakh. If a crore is invested at 10%, we are going to make 10 lakhs a year. So smaller the percentage, smaller is the amount that you're getting out of it, higher the percentage, higher the amount. And everybody wants to have as high return as possible for the deployed money. So yield is a very important factor, and we have to make sure the return on money that we are getting is beating inflation and is also a good return after accounting for the income taxes. So post-tax, if it can beat inflation, you have a very nicely set up portfolio.
Absolutely, and there's of course that trade-off between risk and return that we've spoken about before as well. But the last one that you've mentioned is something that people tend to miss out on, they tend to avoid, which is succession planning.
Right. So succession planning, especially in last 1.5 years, has become very important and has become a very crucial focus area for a lot of senior citizens. Not just senior citizens, like I am concerned. Given my age, I may not have thought so much about it had COVID not happened. So succession planning, what's going to happen to your financial assets if you are not around? So you must do a good conversation with your spouse. You must write it on a piece of paper, what all assets you have, share it with her or share it with him, and share it with your children. Have 2 witnesses, make sure that paper is safely kept. If you're going the registration way, then you will have to change. For any changes that you're doing, you will have to get the re-registration process done. So if you can do it without registration, create a plan without registration, make sure it is having signatures of 2 witnesses, and you keep updating it every year. You never know what may happen to our life. So it's one of the important aspects. And I would appeal even to younger people to start thinking about if they have the right nomination framework, if they have the right succession letter or will written for the assets that they have, and if their spouse knows about all of that. So maintain that document, and it is going to make the lives of your dependents very easy if you do it.
Yeah, and there's no reason to shirk this because it's as important as buying a life insurance policy, a term life insurance policy that is, when you're taking care of your loved ones, you're safeguarding their futures as well. Thank you so much, Amit, for joining in and for speaking to us. Really insightful conversation as usual.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.